Hey.
How you doing?
Hey, what's up, bro? How you doing, man?
Oh, real good. Thank you for joining me. You got here early. I appreciate that. I was like, oh, I got still get together for it, but I'm glad you made it in.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt.
No problem. All right, we're gonna jump in. I'm excited to talk to you today. Let me just pull up my notes here.
Okay.
All right, thank you for joining me. I have a special guest with me. He is a gospel hip hop artist, founder and co-owner of music production company and record label He Did It LLC. Please help me welcome Vi Moon. Vi, how you doing, my brother?
Doing well, bro. Thank you, man. Thank you for having me, man.
No problem. I want to talk about your journey in music. You're doing hip hop, gospel hip hop specifically. When did you know you had a gift for music? When did you notice that?
It was early on, as a kid, man. I would like hear, for instance, I grew up in the '90s, so I would hear like I'd be watching Home Alone, and I would hear like the little tones in the movie. And my family member of mine had a keyboard, so I would actually at like 7 or 8 years old be playing back the little tones that I heard in the movie. So my mom kind of recognized that I had a gift for the ear, because I didn't know how to read music. Obviously, I'm just playing what I hear, figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then fast forward a little bit, you know what I'm saying? I'm about 12 or 13, no, I'm about 11, 12, something like that. And I'm involved in this group at my elementary school. This is when I was living in Dallas, Texas. And we would do steps, but we would also do raps, and we would do Black History raps. I remember I was Malcolm X for mine. And that's when I first kind of got in tune with rhyme. And our instructor taught us how to write our own rhymes. So fast forward to high school, man, I'm all in. I got a rap group in high school, and I'm making beats, and we got like a little makeshift studio. We doing our thing. And then I get to college, and it just kept growing and growing, man. So music has always been intertwined in me.
Wow. Do you remember your first rhyme?
Yeah, I actually do. But I didn't write this. Our instructor wrote this for us. It was the rhyme about Malcolm X, and it was well, I be the man better known as Malcolm X when I flex just like a falcon. Some people see me think I'm kind of scary, but I want justice by any means necessary. Refuse to be treated like I don't belong. Can't tell me what I'm doing is wrong. I won't stand for racial injustice. Malcolm X, and you can't touch this. You know what I'm saying?
I like that. I like that.
So
Now
that
you
was like my
mentioned,
first rhyme.
wow, that's sweet. You're from Montgomery, Alabama, by way of Dallas, Texas. Before we jump more into your content, do you have? We realize Texas as a whole is dealing with a lot. Do you have family there, and if so, how are they doing?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I have family, San Antonio, family in Dallas, family in Houston. They're holding their heads, man. Everybody seems to be doing well, maneuvering through. My old church family there, I attended Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship with Pastor Tony Evans. I heard that his office was flooded, due to the burst of the pipe. So we're definitely keeping them lifted up. But everybody's holding their heads, man. Thank you for asking.
No problem. No problem. Now you have a track, "Get It Together," and it's my understanding that your son is not only featured on the track, but was in part of the inspiration in writing it. Give us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, man. So my son, he's 7 years old, and he's in tune to what I do. You know what I mean? And with the pandemic and everything going on, me and my wife decided to just kind of pull them out of school and do the homeschool thing. So, I'm for the last year, I've been really more hands-on with him than ever. And so, he's been attached to me at the hip. So naturally, I record a lot of things at home in my home studio. So after I'm doing my lessons with him, I'm segueing into my work and running a production company. So I'm working on his record, and I'm at the dinner table one time, and I had these lyrics pinned for this record, but I'm like, you know what? I got to record it on my phone just so I can feel it and ride to it a little bit. So I go to the studio in my office. I record it on my phone. Now, my son, Dallas, we call him Young Dal, but his name is Dallas. He's in there with my youngest son, Vincent, and they're playing while I'm recording this record on my phone. So I get to this part where I don't really have anything yet. So I was just letting it, just letting it ride out. I was going to go back to it later and fill it in. And my son is rapping over that part, right? I'm not really thinking much of it at the time. I play it back maybe like a week later, and I'm trying to figure out what to put in that space, some kind of bridge, some kind of chant, whatever. And I hear my son's part, and I'm like, he did it. Like, that's it. Like, it's no more. Like, he just freestyled it from his heart, playing with his brother, and the words were just so powerful, man. So yeah, we let him in and took him to the studio. He laid it down, and here we are.
Wow, wow. Do you think he'll walk in your shoes as it pertains to music and production?
Man, you know what? I think he will, because as he's grown, when I was the media guy, sound guy at my church, we would be at rehearsal. He's all on stage since he was a baby, in tune with the musicians. We used to play one of my albums while he slept at 1 or 2 years old, like every night. He's been in the studio. Sometimes he wants, like when he was like 4 years old, he'll come in the booth and just be rapping. You don't know what he's saying. He's right? But he wanted to do that, right? And he used to say he wanted to rap. You know what I mean? So I think he might have the bug. And my youngest son, he was always in tune with the production. Like whenever I'm making beats, Vincent is right there on my lap, just locked in. He's got that ear. So I always say Dallas is the rapper, and my youngest son Vinny is gonna be the producer. So we'll see what happens, man.
Wow, wow. Well, guys, you got to be sure to check out that track, Get It Together with Young Dollar. It has a sweet beat and the lyrics are good. Speaking of lyrics, you have another track called Revolution. And in this track, there's a line that says, sometimes good ain't God. Now, I know you're a believer after learning about you and your music. What does that mean to you? What is that line? Sometimes good ain't God. Expound on that.
Well, sometimes the thing that we think in front of us, even practically speaking, that may look good, it may make sense, but there's probably a tug in our heart that's saying, yeah, it looks good. Yeah, that deal looks good. Yeah, that job looks good. Yeah, that lady, that guy looks good. But something in me is saying that's not the way. And whether you believe in Jesus, whether you believe in God, I still, for my belief, we're all made in his image. So whether you believe or not, we all have an intuitive nature. And a lot of times that intuition, my faith, I believe that's God screaming at us, if you will, saying, yeah, it looks good, but follow this. Even if you don't have a name for me in that, even if you don't call it Jesus, you don't call it Holy Spirit, you don't call it God, you don't call it, don't matter what you call it. This thing in you that's in the eye, to the senses, man, that opportunity looks well. Man, that deal, they're gonna blow me. But man, I don't know, it's just something ain't right. Usually that something ain't right is an indicator that in the long run, it's not gonna benefit us. So yeah, sometimes good ain't God. Sometimes the thing that looks good on the surface may not be what the God in us is telling us to do for our greater good. If that makes any sense,
It makes a lot of sense and a necessary message, especially for our young people, particularly our young Black people and young Black men too, because around us, this gratification, instant gratification is just, I mean, get it fast, get money. It's such a necessary message. I'm curious about that in your life. What example, or I guess a scenario do you have where you realize something that looked good and later on you realize it wasn't God? Give us an example of that in your life.
Oh man, man. So an example where I actually, because I have examples where it looked good and I turned it down and I was right, but I got some examples where I didn't always get it right. I think one of them, I don't know, man. It's so many. I put it like this. It's as simple as this. When I started in college, I went to Alabama State University, HBCU here in Montgomery, Alabama, where the civil rights movement started. Got to throw that out there. When I started in college, I majored in music. And it made sense because that is where my life was geared toward. It just made sense. And this is back in like 2005. And at the time, ASU didn't have a recording industry major. So it was just music in general, which a lot of good can come from that. But I was struggling, man. It was hard because it was like music theory. It was all these things and I'm a producer. I play by ear. I'm not saying that I shouldn't have learned those things, but what I'm saying is by that time, my mind was made up and I knew what I wanted to do. And I was struggling in that. And so my girlfriend, who is now my wife, at the time, she was a communications major and radio and TV broadcast. And she was like, man, maybe you should switch your major. And I'm like, I don't want to do radio. I want my music to be on the radio. And then a light bulb went off. And from there it was like, you know what? Why don't I learn the radio game? Why don't I learn the TV game from the back end? And then that way I can segue and eventually get my music there, but I'll know the game from the back end. So a lot of my friends that I was majoring in music with, they all had the same aspirations as me. We wanted to be artists, whether it's singers, rappers, producers, etc. And I was in a band, all that. I dropped it, man. I dropped the music and I did broadcasting. All my friends stuck with it for the most part, but it worked and it didn't make sense. Even my parents was like, "You doing radio, TV? Okay, well, okay." But eventually, bro, the plan worked out because upon graduation, I got a job as a producer at a local radio station. I worked there for 5 to 7 years. I met many artists. I met many record labels. I met many managers. I was able to learn the game from the inside, and that gave me the blueprint to start my label and do what I'm doing full time. So at the beginning, it didn't make sense for me to switch my major like that, but it ended up panning out. So, I mean, I hope that's a cool example. That's one that just kind of came to mind. Sometimes what makes sense, it may not be that thing. Because like I said, when my wife said that at the time, in here it was like, I don't know, but in here, it was like, maybe I should just do it, man. You know, and it worked out well for me. So, you know, sometimes what makes sense to us up here, as long as it's sinking in with down here, then I think it's good. But if it's not sinking in, then we may want to revisit that and see what's going on there, you know.
So true, so true. It's my understanding that you have a background as a youth pastor. Talk to us about that journey.
Yeah, man, that was totally unexpected, bro. Music was always the catalyst for me. Even acting, I dove into that a bit. To be honest with you, bro, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. That came about with me just taking my faith seriously. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just looking for Jesus. I was like, this God that I've been hearing about my whole life, I need to see you, man. I'm tired of hearing about you. I'm tired of hearing preach. I'm just tired. I just need to see you. And that was my mindset. And in that mindset, it opened doors for me that I didn't realize were even there for me. And youth pastoring was one of them. And that taught me, you know, I guess what it really taught me, man, was what can happen when you really follow your convictions. You know, there's a scripture that says we can't even imagine the things that God has for us. I'd never imagined that I would have flown to Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and spoke to 5,000 people and 200 youth, and they all not only preach but also rap, and they're rapping back my songs. These guys don't even speak English, but they're all in pack. I never would have imagined that, and it came from just a pure place, not from me. I'm not saying don't have aspirations of these things, but what I'm saying is just being pure and just being real, it opens doors that you just never imagined. So that's just one thing that kind of came to me. But here's the thing, bro, and I'm glad you brought up the good or God thing, because I could have used this example too, and I'm gonna just segue this in real quick. So I was youth pastor for about 3 years, right? And that sounds good, and that gave me a lot of experience, opened some doors for me. But then in here, I started getting that nudge that I needed to step down and really hone in on this label and this music, which was going to take a lot of me. Plus, I have a family, so I couldn't do all three, and it bear the fruit that I knew it could bear. So, bro, I mean, I had people telling me in the church, great people, advisors, mentors, I don't think you need to do this. I don't think now's the time. It didn't make sense, just like the music thing, me switching my major. But again, in here, in my mind, I knew what they said made sense there, but in my gut, bro, I was just like, nah, I need to do this. And I stepped down about 3 years ago, but it ended up opening doors for me, man. I got the LLC established. Me and my wife were able to get some things maneuvered where the money can still come in and we're not just out here starving. We ended up, selling our house and building a new house. I just got this space about a month ago. I'm building this new studio space specifically for He Did It LLC. I wouldn't have been able to do this if I would have still been committed to, being a youth pastor at the time. Nothing wrong with that. But my thing is, you got to know when your time is up. You know what I mean? For whatever season you're in, I think, there's seasons and there's reasons and all that. And for the time I was there, I gave it my all. but I just knew it was time to make a different direction. And those guys that I was teaching, they still follow me to this day. They still follow the music, and they see it's impacted even more people, and that inspires them more. Because they can say, yo, that's my youth pastor, man. Look at him. You know what I'm saying? So it's working out for the greater good, man. It really is.
You know what, you said something so powerful there, and I want to hone in on that a little more, because I think sometimes in the Black church particularly, we put demands on titles and gifts. So I'm curious, when you were making that transition from pastor to now full-time entrepreneur and business owner, were people trying to keep you in that space because they felt like there was a need for your gift, or because they felt like that was really the only way God could use you? Because sometimes we feel like you have to be in a pulpit to be used by God, or you have to have pastor attached to your name. And which one do you think that was for your situation?
And to be honest, I think it was a little bit of both. I think the most genuine ones, they really just didn't understand. And for them, it was like, wait a minute, no, you got to be connected to the church. We will send you out. You don't just go. We tell you when to go. We release you. You don't come to us and say it, right? Because that was the order. That was the tradition of things. And they meant well. It just, God can do what he wants, man. He's God, right? And then, yeah, I think there was those that was like, yo, this will, and they, of course they won't say this, but you can tell, this will benefit the church. Because me being there, man, I brought Thizzle. I don't know if people are familiar with Thizzle, but he's a artist from St. Louis. He's a gospel hip hop artist, more prominent than I am. I brought him in, man. We did concerts. We blew the thing out. But so it was beneficial. You know what I'm saying? It definitely was beneficial. But also they benefited me as well, bro. They really helped out with me and my family. They showed me how to kind of walk this faith. They understood what I was doing. And a lot of people don't really understand it. So I got to definitely give them kudos for that. And I'm still connected to them. But yeah, I think the premise was a lot of people just didn't understand, again, up here. Even those who go to church every Sunday, been in this thing 50, 40 years, it was something new. But one thing I can say is the genuine people truly do love me. And they still, so even sometimes they still don't get it, but I think they're starting to see the fruit of it. And it's like, well, maybe he was on to something. Maybe Bob wasn't off his rocker. Maybe he was on to something. And those are the ones that have my heart, and I care, and I really trust and love. So it was a mixture of both, and it was tough on me because I had a tendency to want to make people happy, bro. I ain't gonna lie. I like for people, I like for peace. I don't like for there to be no conflict. I like for everything to be good. But at the same time, when I have a conviction, I have to follow it. I just have to, and so it was interesting. It was tough, but it's working out for the greater good. Definitely is.
Yes. You're a gospel hip hop artist and former youth pastor. Sometimes in our circle in the Black church, some cringe and get uncomfortable around that hip hop term and the sound. As an artist and former pastor, what would you say to those people who are still not quite comfortable with your style of gospel music?
Man, I would say, bro, let's remind ourselves of the Jesus that we claim to serve. Because here's the thing, it was the same thing with him. The way that he ministered wasn't the way that was popular at the time, which is why he had the haters that he had, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, etc. So I would just say, hey, let's really look at this thing from a different perspective. And for those who know the scriptures, there's one, I can't give you where it is, but there's this one Pharisee who had some wisdom, and he said this when they were trying to debate. This is when Peter and John, this is after Jesus died, and Peter and John were before him or whatever. But anyway, this one Pharisee said this. He said, look here, y'all. He said, I don't know if this is God or not, but what I do know, if it is God, I don't want to be caught in the crossfire. So why don't we do this? Why don't we let them do their thing? If it's God, then we'll be blessed by it because we didn't get in the middle of it. And if it's not God, it won't last anyway. So let's just fall back and trust the God we serve. And that's what I would tell anybody else out there. Look here, man, and of course I'm gonna say I know it's God because I'm in it, right? But I'm gonna be a little, I'm gonna meet you where you are. If this isn't God, then you don't have nothing to worry about because it won't last anyway, right? It's gonna come to nothing. But if it is, I would hate to be in the middle of trying to be in the middle of what he's doing, trying to come up against what he's doing. I don't want to go against God. So the best way to do, I think, is this: just release it. Hey, let them kids, let them men, let them boys do what they're doing, and let's see what God do. And from there, we get to see from a spiritual perspective, God work in real time. You know what I mean? So I would just say, trust the Lord, man, and see what happens.
Yeah, wise words. I'm curious, as an artist, have you gotten any feedback or testimonies as pertains to how your music has impacted any of your listeners or followers?
Yeah, I have, man. I have. And you know what's interesting, bro? Not from who I expected. I ain't gonna lie, I come from the hood, bro. You know what I'm saying? Fortunately, I had, parents who were blessed and raised me to do different things. But, I come from that world. And those are the guys that I'm really thinking, yo, it's gonna really hit them. And it do. But I get some of the most emotional testimonies from white mothers, white single mothers, older men, you know what I mean? Ladies in the church. It's almost like the question you just asked me previously, it's almost like it's starting to break barriers. And of course, my homies in the streets, they get it because they know me from back then. They know me now, they support. But I get these crazy, like even my grandfather on my dad's side, who I've never met, he follows my music. This is my grandfather, bro. Like, what is it? And he's like, man, keep going. I had an older white gentleman an older white lady in Alaska say how my music is touching her, and she was shut in because of the snow. I ended up mailing her 2 copies of my album all the way up in Alaska. It's breaking barriers, bro. It's breaking barriers. And that's what's blowing me away, because I'm like, wait a minute, I wasn't even targeting these people. and sometimes I get in my feelings. I'm like, what about the people I'm targeting? But I can't miss the big picture. Like I said, the question you asked me previously, that's been the biggest struggle for a lot of gospel hip hop, Christian hip hop artists. But it's breaking barriers, bro. And it's almost like God is saying, look, I know you want to cater to the streets, but I got to get these folks straight first. Then don't worry about them. They're going to be good. We're going to bring it all together. So it's been amazing. I remember, I say this and I'll stop. I did a show in my hometown of Ellick City, a 4th of July festival they do. And I was the first rap artist to ever do it in history. And they've been doing this festival maybe for about 10 plus years. And so I get up there and they were a little nervous. Even with me doing, Christian gospel hip hop, they were still a bit skeptical. But they gave me a shot. And I later got a testimony that there was a family listening from like out in the outskirts, because this was an outside festival. It was a Hispanic family. And they gave a testimony. They said, we heard the rapper you had, and our whole house, I think one of them was saved, said our whole house just gave our lives to Christ after hearing the rapper. They specifically said the rapper, right? And so God is really breaking barriers, man. And that's a beautiful thing, bro. That's a beautiful thing.
Yes, indeed. I keep referencing your song Revolution because something about those lyrics just beamed to me. But there's a lyric in that says, no more straining and struggling. He removed every burden. Give us some insight into the strains and struggles and burdens that you had to endure to become who you are now.
Oh man, I would say the biggest thing for me was just a lot of people go through this, but a lot of rejection, a lot of people not really taking seriously what your passion is. I remember I'm gonna quote the late great Nipsey Hussle in his album Victory Lap. He said this bar. He says he was referencing to a young guy in the hood, and he said, he know he a genius, but he can't show it because they left him no platform to explore it. He frustrated, so he get faded. But deep down inside, he know you can't fade him. And man, that spoke to me because, when you're passionate about something and it's like, yo, I got this talent, but it's like people, even people close to you is like, that's just a little, but what are you really going to do, right? What is your real job? What is this? And so getting over just the rejection of even homies not even believing in you, they cool with you, but they don't really believe in you. And so for me, that was something I had to go through. And then just being a young Black man in America, bro, coming from a single parent household. My mom, by the grace of God, eventually got married when I was 15. But up until that point, shoot, bro, we was, hey, we was coming up doing the best we could. My mom worked. I was the only child. So just seeing my mom grind the way she did coming up and seeing, back in Dallas, coming up in the hood, seeing gang banging, going through all that, maneuvering through all that, moving to Alabama. And just, it's kind of funny because here I didn't really deal with a lot of racism. And I know it sounds funny because it's Alabama, right? But it was really just a culture change more so than anything because, I come from Dallas. Oak Cliff is majority Black and Hispanic. I wasn't used to being around a lot of white people. So moving here, that was a culture shock and learning how to maneuver that and then having a child at a young age. Like my first daughter, we had her when we were only like 19, 20. We're sophomores in college. My wife wasn't my wife at the time. She's from Las Vegas. She's out here, no family. You know what I mean? And trying to not to be a statistic because both of our parents raised us to not be a statistic. We're both from single parent households. So maneuvering that and coming full circle and marrying her and having a family, having 3 more children, having, by the grace of God, successful careers, being able to do this full time, it's just a blessing, bro. It's just a blessing, man. So, just maneuvering life, bro. Maneuvering life.
Yeah. You mentioned being the only child, and I have a cousin who's the only child, and she has like 6 kids, and it's been this myth throughout the family that usually only children have a bunch of kids. Was that something in your heart to have a bunch of kids?
Hey, I'm gonna be real with you, bro. That was not the original plan. You feel me? It was not. But at the same time, having our daughter at 19, 20 years old wasn't the original plan. So at one point, it just was like, you know what, God, my life is in your hands. And I actually caught a vision that we would have more kids. Me and my wife, we had their names laid out. I ain't gonna lie, we even at one point knew what we were gonna have. We knew, okay, it's gonna be a boy. I just feel it. It was a boy, had the name laid out. It's gonna be a girl, had the name laid out. And I credit that. I ain't saying I'm this foreseer or nothing like that. What I'm saying is it was just a matter of me just letting go of my life and saying, God, what you want to do with it? You know what's best for me. You have plans to prosper me, plans to give me greatness. So you show me, and he showed me 2 more kids on top of the 2 that we had. And I'm like, okay, well, give me the grace to do it. And that goes back to that question you asked previously. No more straining and struggling. He removed every burden. What he was doing, because in my mind, I'm like, yo, 2 more kids, Lord, like, but he was showing me how to live by grace, bro. How to live in peace, how to live in rest. Don't mean you're not doing nothing, but it means in your doing, you're at peace, you're at rest. You're not anxious, you're not worried. And when you do get anxious, when you do get worried, there's a scripture that says, cast your cares to the Lord. So Lord, I'm telling you, I'm tripping out about this. Before I even go to my wife, before I go to my pops, my moms, I'm going to you. I'm tripping out about this. I'm tripping out. And as you doing that, and sometimes those conversations get really real, right? And you know what I'm saying? It get real. But by the time I'm finished there, it's like a burden has been lifted. And the weight of those things that I was just telling them about is gone. And it's like there's an ease to it. There's a flow to the work. There's an ease and a flow. So that's what I meant by that bar. And so going back to the kids, that's what he was showing me. He was showing me that with the kids so that I can apply that to my work. Because now here we are, my wife, my 4 kids, she's doing what she does in real estate. I'm doing this full time. This would seem just too much for me if it was the me 2 years ago. But because I was able to get that training with the kids and learn how to flow in the grace of God, now we just flowing, bro. I ain't saying it's easy, but what I'm saying is the difficulty, there's a peace in it. There's a flow in it, bro. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. Your music production company and record label is called He Did It. For those that may not know and can't hear what you're saying, explain to them who he is and what he did for you.
Yeah, the he is Jesus Christ. I'm not referring to myself. And the reason why I put the emphasis on Jesus Christ is because, I'm a Christian. I'm a believer in Jesus. When he died on the cross and rose again, that was for our sins. But here's the thing. A lot of people think that, okay, he died for our sins. That means I can go to heaven. But that also means that you can enjoy some heaven on earth. And we trust in that. And what I mean by that, bro, is I don't want to go too deep, but here's the thing. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, they would say this thing, right? Moses, all the people we hear about, Abraham, God would tell them this one thing. He would be like, I am with you. They would say, when they would go into battle, David, all these guys, they would go into battle and they would say, the Lord is with me, so I know we're going to win, right? Well, here's what that means. That means you're going to have victory in battle. You're going to have victory in your life. You're going to have victory. You're going to have in your kids. You're going to have wealth. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to bless your finances. I'm going to bless everything you do. The Lord was with them. But here's the beautiful thing, bro. When Jesus died, bro, he made it to where God could be with us despite us. Despite our sin. It's not that we're not going to do anything anymore. It's that we're trusting because of what he did. He's not holding what I did against me, so the Lord can still be with me despite the mess ups I made yesterday. I can still be prosperous in my business. I can still be healthy in my strength. My kids are prosperous. My wife is prosperous. My thing. Yeah, I got troubles, but he overcame it. So eventually this trouble is going to work out for my good. And that's the beauty of the gospel, bro. It's not just about heaven. It's about, despite my faults, I still can enjoy the benefits of God. And let's be real. A lot of us don't come to God just because of God. We come to him for the benefits. Let's just be real, bro. I want a blessed life. And you died for that. So why don't I just take advantage of it? And in the midst of it, you fall in love with him, man. So he gave me the grace, because he died, to do what I'm doing, to have a wife, to have 4 kids, to be able to hold a record label in a production company, to be able to, be on this interview with you that I did not seek out. Not, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying things just begin to flow to you as you trust in that one simple truth of what he did back then. So yeah, man, that's the premise of what it is.
I'm gonna tell you, you may have given up the title for pastor, but preacher is still in you. Oh my goodness. Before we get out of here, to me, artists, be it music, film, visual, are some of the most brilliant people in our land. And that's, I think, especially at times like these. And I think that's because those individuals have to be vulnerable. You have to feel, and you have to use your heart, not only to experience the world, but to create. I'm curious, amid all that's going on racially, politically, what's in your heart as pertains to the state of our world today?
Oh man, that's a great question, bro. I think there's a few things. I think for one thing, it's sort of an awakening for us to really see the things that really matter. When you have an alarm, you know that alarm is going to be loud, and it's loud to wake you up, right? And so everything right now is loud. Like everything, it seems to be, the volume has been turned up. And what's happening? Something in us needs to be waking up. And maybe that thing is, let me value what really means the most to me. I'm out here chasing this paper, but I got a baby girl at home. Maybe I should hold on to my baby girl a little bit longer. Maybe I should value my parents, because other people's parents are dying. I had my son's coach, his mom passed away. I had a friend who I did a record with 5 years ago. He passed away just last night, bro. Like, people are dying, man. Like, so let me hold tight to these relationships that I took advantage of. And I just think it's an alarm, bro. It's an alarm. And that's different for each individual, but somehow we all got to wake up in our own special way. And as an artist, for me, especially in the content of music that I make, I think I have a great responsibility of ushering in a little hope, but also meeting people where they are, because I've also been affected. And I remember Tupac saying this, bro. He was like, because they was asking him about thug life. And it was like, why are you glorifying thug life? Like, you came out political, now you're talking about thug life. And there's a scene, I think in a movie, where Pac was like, look here, man, if you're going to bring somebody out of the mud, you got to go in there with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you got to get in there with them to show them, hey, yeah, I'm muddy too, but we can still make it out. And so for me as an artist, it's like you said, let's be a bit more vulnerable, because my past music has been more celebratory. Yes, the Lord is with me. Here's my triumphs, right? But this record and the album I'm working on now, and even future albums, are more vulnerable. Look, man, this is where I messed up at. This is where I failed at, bro. Like, this is where I'm still working on today. It ain't right. I lost. But at the same time, there's hope. So I feel a great responsibility as an artist to deliver that and to meet people where they at, and hopefully shed some light too, shine some light. You feel me?
Yes. Well said, my brother. Tell our listeners where they can get the track "Get It Together" and your other music and everything else you got going on.
No doubt. So I mean, get it together. All my music is on all the digital platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, wherever you purchase music. But if you want to get a more personal touch, you can visit my website, and that's vymoon.com. V as in Victor, YMOON, vymoon.com. And there you'll see all of my albums, all of my songs, all of my videos. And you also see Get It Together. And the video for Get It Together featuring my son, Young Dal, drops on March 25th. So we gearing up for that. And yeah, man, vymoon.com. My YouTube, just type in Vymoon Music. You'll see what we have out there. And I would ask you to also subscribe to my mailing list on my website at vymoon.com. If you scroll to the bottom, there's a section that says gems. You put your email in, that's it. That's all we want, just your email, and you'll get inspiration and also updates on new music and new content as it drops. So visit vymoon.com for everything.
Vymoon.com. And I got to say, I had a sneak peek of the video, loved it. I don't want to give it away, but I loved it. I just say that much. So y'all be sure to check that out.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it.
Well, Vi, from one black brother to another, I appreciate you for representing the way you do, and keep letting God shine through you. It's really needed, really needed.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you, man.